Are you thinking about selling your house in 2026, but you're not sure where to get started or how to properly prepare your house to sell? Well, this video is for you because I walk through the exact process on how to prepare your house to sell for top dollar and sell quickly. But before we begin, if you actually want to talk to somebody to help build a strategy to get your house ready to sell, then all you have to do is click the link in the description and set up a strategy call. I help people just like you every single week properly prepare their house to be able to sell for top dollar. Alright, so we're going to jump right in. This is going to be how to prepare your home to sell for top dollar and to sell quickly. Things have changed a lot in the last couple of years. It's no longer 2020 and 2021 where you can just throw your house on the market with nothing done to it and receive 50,000 offers like you used to be able to. So this is the most important step on selling a house in 2026. And we're going to go over why. Because here's why. Buyers are more selective. They're able to look at inventory at a slower pace than they used to be able to. And right now in Huntsville, there's a good amount of properties on the market. So just the number of properties that are on the market, they're more selective. They're more selective based on financials more than they used to be. They understand what they're able to afford, and they're not willing to go way over budget like they were a couple years prior. So if your home doesn't meet their financial budget, they move right on. They base a lot of their decisions on first impressions. So online or in person, they will get completely turned off on a house just based on what they see on it. If it doesn't stop the scroll, then they move on. And there's just a stronger demand for properties to be well maintained and be able to show really well. So that's why this preparation really matters in 2026. It's the buyers, and there's a stronger demand for things to be up to top notch when it comes to putting a house on the market. Alright, so what preparation does for you as the seller? So it stands out online. You want to have an agent that uses professional photography, uses videos. YouTube is a big thing. And so YouTube is a big thing because not only is YouTube the second biggest search engine in the world, it also shows up in Google searches. It is now one of the things that is indexed in AI. So when somebody puts in either Google or ChatGPT, Claude, or any of these other AI platforms, show me houses that meet this criteria, they're able to see if that agent uses good descriptive SEO keywords in their listing. It could show up in that AI search. So that's just why photography and videos are a must-have when it comes to listing. Increases perceived value when the house is clean, it's updated, it's the right repairs were made. It shows to the buyers that the house was well maintained, and so they're not automatically turned off when it comes to looking at your property. Reduces buyer objections. So addressing issues before. One of the things that happens in a real estate transaction is the request for repairs. It's just another negotiation between buyers and sellers, and if you mitigate this prior to listing a house, the buyer usually loses some of their negotiation power when it comes to that second negotiating period. And it also creates stronger offers. If you do a top-notch job at getting your home ready, staging, pictures, all that kind of stuff, repairs, and you have multiple buyers, you create some type of urgency when it comes to pricing and stuff, then you have the opportunity to create a multiple offer situation and just have more buyers that are interested in your property altogether. Alright, so preparing your house. The first step is decluttering your house. You hear this all the time, declutter, depersonalize, but it is truly the first thing that you need to do when it comes to getting your house ready to put on the market. You want to remove any kind of excess furniture that's not really needed, especially big bulky furniture. Anything that's on countertops. I know a lot of people like to put their KitchenAid mixers and stuff on the counter. You want to have that as clean and clear as possible. All belongings that doesn't need to be there. You may need to do a storage unit or something like that just to get them out of the way. And what you gain from doing this, it makes rooms feel larger, more functional. When you don't have as many things, cluttering the path of light and stuff, it allows more light and everything to come into the spaces within the house. And they take better photographs when everything's just clean and not cluttered. Alright, step 2 is depersonalizing the space. That's removing all photos. You don't want to have any kind of personal photos in the area because buyers, it creates a psychological thing where they can't really visualize themselves there because it's not them in the picture. So you want to remove all pictures, personal pictures. You also don't want to have those things on the internet, in the listing or so. So you want to remove personal pictures. If you have any wild colored painted rooms, you want to get those painted to a neutral color. This allows buyers, that neutral color allows buyers to be able to envision what they want to do with that space more than if it's something they don't like a crazy hot pink or something like that. But that neutral color allows them to start visualizing what they would do with that room. And you also want to reduce distractions. I've said in the past, you want any kind of pet, any kind of unique thing in the house, you want to remove that because it can be a huge distraction. Like I've said with dogs, if you leave the dog in the house when it's showing, then the minute that, if you go in with a child, the minute that child sees that dog, you have become completely distracted. That buyer has become completely distracted from looking at that house because they're more worried about getting that kid away from the dog. So goes along with personalizing space. You don't want to have anything that can remove the attention of that buyer while they're in your home. Alright, you want to deep clean everything. This is a big one. Buyers don't like messy houses. They just don't. So floors, baseboards, all need to be cleaned. Windows, I know that's one big thing that it accumulates stuff on the outside. You want to make sure those are cleaned off. Kitchens and bathrooms need to be cleaned. If there's any kind of water damage underneath sinks and stuff, you want to go ahead and have that fixed, because the second they open the cabinet underneath there, they're going to notice that, especially if it puts out an odor. Any kind of smells that are in your house, you need to make sure that those are mitigated. You need to have some type of professional come in and get those smells out of the house. If you have cats, anytime they pee around the house, it creates an odor that's hard to get rid of. So that's something that needs to be mitigated up front. Buyers don't like walking in the house and instantly hit with some type of odor, and that goes for something that smells good too. You don't want to have it overbearing. I've had buyers complain and feedback to me that they had to get out of the house because the smell of the fragrance that was being that they had in the house was overbearing, and they just had to get out of the house. So it goes both ways. You don't want to have something smelling too good that's really strong, or a bad odor. So alright, step 3, that is handling repairs before the listing. So like I said, anything that's replacing air filters, fixing dripping faucets, loose door handles, any kind of minor paint issues you want to go ahead and take care of. Anything that could be a safety issue or showing neglect of the house. Buyers like to have the feeling that the house is well maintained, and doing these beforehand, before a buyer even steps in a house, will gain you more attention from that buyer, because it sticks out. If there's a leaking faucet, they're going to notice that, and if they're focused on that leaky faucet, they're not looking at everything else that's great with the house. So any kind of burned out bulbs you want to replace. Even simple things like cracked switch plates or outlet covers. It's just showing that you're neglecting the maintenance of the house, and sometimes the buyer can't see past that. All right, so what buyers notice immediately? I just said this with the deferred maintenance. This is things like damaged trim, broken hardware on cabinets, leaky faucets. Those are things that they're going to notice right away, and if they're not maintained, they're going to know that you didn't take great care of the house. Stained walls and flooring. This is another thing. If you have any kind of stains on the wall, especially with flat paint stuff, you want to make sure you paint over that, or paint. If you have flat paint, it's not going to look good, so you're going to have to paint the whole thing. Poor lighting. Poor lighting makes rooms feel smaller and less inviting. Alright, so step 4, you want to focus on high ROI improvements, things that are going to give you a good return on investment whenever you actually sell the house. That's going to be things like neutral paint, updated lighting, new cabinet hardware, and landscaping touch-ups. You don't need to do some crazy kitchen upgrade unless it just absolutely needs it. But if you have great things already in place that might just need to be updated some, these are things that you can do that will give you a good return on investment, that will show buyers that this house is amazing and that I don't have to do any of this type of stuff when I first move in. So that's the big plus that you want to have when a buyer is looking at a house. Letting them know that these finishes all look great and I don't need to update any of it. So that's one thing you want to go ahead and do. Like I said, neutral paint. If you need to upgrade any type of gold chandelier or something like that, you need to update it to something that gives out more bright light. And then cabinet hardware, if it's any of the old brass type stuff, you want to make it stainless steel, black, something like that. And then landscape and touch-ups make your house look good on the first impression when they get out of the car walking up to your house. Alright, the rooms that influence buyers the most: kitchens, bathrooms, flooring, and lighting or brightness, that the amount of light the windows naturally let into the house. These are the type of things that influence buyers the most. Kitchens and bathrooms are where people that live in a house, that's where they spend a lot of their time, so they want things to be nice. They want it to flow. They want there to be a lot of natural light. The flooring, if you have any kind of broken floors or anything like that, carpet that needs to be replaced, that needs to be done before you put the house on the market, because that's just something that buyers are like, oh man, that tile looks cracked. It's something I'm gonna have to replace when I buy this house, or if I buy this house. So you need to have everything done before it goes on the market. And like I said earlier, you want to avoid over improving your house. You don't want to spend $30,000 on a kitchen, for a property that may be worth $250 or so. You're not going to get the return on your investment if you do something like that. You can do things like maybe update the backsplash, or update the colors of the walls in your kitchen. That might make brighten things up. But you don't want to go overboard when it comes to improving your property before you put it on the market, because you're not going to get that money back in sales price. Alright, step 5, you want to boost curb appeal. You want to make sure that your yard is cut at all times. Don't want to let it go overboard at all. Your front porch and entryway needs to be clean. You want to trim bushes back. You want to add mulch, and just make sure everything looks good outside at all times. You want to make sure that your gutters are clean. Front door paint isn't peeling because the sun's on it all day. Make sure that the house numbers that are on the house are visible. And these are just things that that buyers notice the second they get out of the car to walk up to your house. It's the first impression, regardless of what's on the inside. The outside is the first thing that buyers see. So this stuff doesn't need to be neglected at all. And what I just said, psychological things of being the first impression. Like I just said, they are judging the house before they even enter. The inside could be exactly what they want, but if the outside is neglected, you got weeds all in the yard, you haven't pressure washed or soft washed the roof or anything like that, they see this nasty looking house, and the inside could be immaculate, and their first impression is like, man, they didn't take care of this property, and they didn't have any pride in this house. So and, this stuff doesn't also affect when they come here. It affects the online portion too, because photographers do a good job of picking up things in their pictures, and if things aren't clean, if they're not, if your yard isn't maintained when the pictures are taken, buyers are just going to scroll right past. Alright, you want to make sure there's at least light staging. This goes for properties that are not vacant. You want to make sure that you arrange your furniture to allow flow between spaces in the property. Even if it's not how you had it set up, you need to move the furniture to where a buyer can easily come in and move between the kitchen, dining room, things like that. Like I said earlier, you need to remove oversized pieces. This clutters up the paths in the house. So that table that's behind your couch that you've used for years for things may not need to be there when you put your house on the market. And you want to make sure that all your blinds, all your drapes and everything, curtains are open. Whenever you have a showing, you want to make sure that all the lights are on, all the blinds are open, all the curtains are open, so that you're letting in the maximum amount of light. It just opens up the property, makes it more inviting to buyers when they come in. Alright, like I said, professional photos and videos are non-negotiable. If an agent's not using a professional photographer, you don't need to use that agent. That's one of the questions you need to ask when you interview an agent is, how are you taking pictures and videos? I've always hired a professional photographer to do photos, but I used to do my own videos, and now I hire a person to do my videos for me too. Top-notch videos. Like this slide says here, 95% of buyers start online. So your pictures and videos need to be top-notch. So I do all professional photos. They do aerial, everything like that. They do videos, and then I do a separate video that I post on YouTube after the walkthrough video, and I do a description of the area around that property, what it's close to. And so it's just another way that I market using video. I have a ton of B-roll of like driving to and from places, and so I'll weave that in and out of the video so they can see what it's like to live in that area. Professional photography gets 3 times more engagement and 2 times more showings, because like I said earlier, if the pictures aren't great, they're not vibrant, buyers are just going to scroll right past. Alright, so common mistakes that sellers want to avoid is over renovating. Like I mentioned before, you don't want to under prepare. You want to have it ready to go, clean, everything depersonalized, decluttered. Here's a big one: listing too quickly. I don't know how many times I've had a listing appointment and they want it listed tomorrow. House isn't ready, not ready for pictures, and that can completely wreck getting a listing sold quickly. So my rule of thumb is I like to have at least a couple weeks. A month is better. So if you know that you're about to sell your house, you need to start contact with an agent about a month prior, so that they can give recommendations on what you need to do with the house. Then go ahead and schedule those pictures. Give you time to be ready for those pictures. One of the things that happens is a seller might be halfway done with repairs, and when it comes time for pictures, because they didn't give themselves enough time to make those repairs. and so some of the things show up in the pictures, and even if they're completed after the fact, buyers are just going to scroll because they see, man, that looks weird, and scroll right past it. Even if it's already completed, they just, didn't have them done before the pictures. And then ignoring presentation. This is a big one. Sellers are still stuck in 2020. They're like, or 2021. They're like, man, I'll put this on the market and it's going to sell for $390,000 when the last property sold for $350,000, and they didn't do anything to even have buyers even interested at all in that property. So you need to that's just stories of the last 8 years of doing this, and sellers not thinking that this matters. It really didn't matter in 2021, but now it does. And, buyers, like I said, are more selective. They scroll past the properties that aren't to their liking or have shown neglect or anything like that. So these are mistakes that sellers make right now, and it affects the probability of selling their home quickly. All right, so what successful sellers do differently? They prepare intentionally. They give themselves enough time. They invest in the presentation, so they don't try to cut corners when it comes to preparing. The photography is usually paid for by the agent, but they welcome an agent that does that, and then because they know it drives people to the house. That first impression online, like I said, 95% of all buyers start online, and then they focus on buyer perception. They don't think like a seller. They think like a buyer. What would I want to see in this house if I was the buyer? They try to detach themselves emotionally from living there, and they address the things that those buyers might have concerns about before they go online. And then they launch with a strategy. They work with an agent that has a strategy on how to sell the house, how they're going to market, and then they work with that agent when it comes to all aspects of having the house available and understanding the marketing plan that agent has and trusting in that. So those are the 4 things that successful sellers do differently versus people that, like on that last slide, that make those mistakes. All right, and so your complete seller preparation list: you want to declutter, deep clean, complete repairs before pictures, do curb appeal. You want to have a little bit of staging, enough that shows good flow, and it's kind of minimal type things, but you want to create a functional space that buyers can walk around and at least picture themselves with that kind of setup. So, and then of course professional media, like I've mentioned multiple times during this video. All right, so if you're thinking about selling your home and want to start interviewing agents, like I said, a month and a half, 2 months prior, reach out. Phone number is 256-542-0226, or like I said in the beginning of this video, you can click the link in the description and set up a strategy call. We can go over, I can meet at your house. We can go over things you probably should do before. You develop a strategy to be able to sell your house quickly and reach your goals for selling that house. All right, coming up next, how to price your home right in the Huntsville area. You can go ahead and click that link or click the video, recorded this just for you so that you know how to price your house right and be able to sell for that top dollar. So click on the video. I'll see you over there.